and welcome back to the Witching Hour. On this episode, we will be talking all things gender. Quite the interesting topic. And again, we have the children of the Wicked Witch of the South, Wicked Witch of the East, Wicked Witch of the West. Say hello, everyone.
Hi, I'm the Witch of the South.
Hi, I'm East.
Hi, I'm West.
Hello, guys. Right, okay, so let's dig right in. Abby?
Okay, we're going to open up with a nice open question. So I'm going to ask you guys why you think women were so heavily picked upon and ostracised during all the witch hunts. So whatever period you want to pick out of that, anything, but why you think women were targeted, what the reasons were. And there is more than one, so just open up and go as you want.
Just discuss it amongst yourselves.
I think that they were picked upon because, back in, the early modern period, men were supposed to be stronger and, smarter, and these witches could have been smarter or more able to do things than some men, and they didn't like that, so they need to come up with a reason to off them.
Also, there was probably, if a woman was seen to have, challenged a man or tried to do something that they shouldn't have done, that'll probably have led to it.
Women a long time ago had very strong stereotypes, and if you didn't fit it, you were seen as not being not normal, but not being right, which is always wrong. But that also made them as a different category, and I think that category became known as witches.
Okay. And do you guys have anyone in history that might not actually be known as a witch or thought was a witch, but that you could think of that was a strong woman or someone who didn't quite fit into society that you might pick apart? Because I have someone in mind, but I want to see who you guys bounce back with.
Lady Macbeth was very different because throughout it she begins to challenge Macbeth and she takes a more important role in what's going on, and then slowly she descends into madness.
Okay. And you think that madness is a bit of a link to that witchcraft as well, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, what about yourself? Mrs. West, anyone that sticks out to you? No?
I don't really have anyone.
What about non-fictional characters? I mean, I'm not going to say these people were witches because from what I'm aware there's no historiography on it or anything, but kind of royalty, so you've got Henry VIII's wives, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, and even his daughters, Mary I and Elizabeth I. They were seen as quite strong women and often condemned. I mean, especially Mary, she's now known as Bloody Mary for sacrifices, but then again, sacrifices were a point of witchcraft.
Queen Elizabeth I as well, because she didn't marry anyone.
Mm-hmm. So we're putting an end to that line. I had someone on the flip side of the royals, so if you look at that, I was thinking of Joan of Arc. So a very strong woman who was perceived as quite masculine and put herself across as a man, and how she was obviously she was popular with some people and very much not with the big boys. So the big royals and the tops weren't a big fan of her. So where that falls into, do you think that was content to witchcraft? Do you think some people thought she might have been a witch? There's no clear historiography on it. There's no theories about this. This is just off the top of my head. What do you guys think?
I think she probably would have been a good person to accuse because she definitely does fit into it, but just because she was powerful and she had to put herself across as a man to fit in doesn't necessarily mean she was a witch.
Sorry, I was going to just put in there. But, with Joan of Arc, there's kind of the myth and the legend as well, I suppose. But I don't know if any of you guys have seen The Messenger, Joan of Arc, I believe it's called, the Luc Besson film. Sorry, he's French. I feel the need
we really had to put the accent on
yes,
that one.
I felt the need to do the French accents.
Apologies to any French listeners we have right now.
Yeah, I do apologise. But, she's presented as hysterical, essentially, and not rational at all. So in a way, the ideal woman to them. I believe there's actually talk about magic in that film, to be honest. But yeah, do you think kind of the witchcraft for women kind of comes as like the historical ideas of women, or do you think it's because they were like scapegoated?
I think it was because they were scapegoated, because there's no logical reason for it to be them other than they weren't what society perceived as normal.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I read that most of the time, a lot of the blame between a husband and a wife was put on the wife, and I think this might have been done to protect like a man's honor or reputation.
Yeah,
a scapegoat.
definitely. Because we also had the idea of just women as the homemaker. So the wife who was the childbearer, who would cook, who would clean and all those things. So women had a lot of time at home by themselves, which obviously put them up to not having much alibi when things went wrong.
Exactly.
Because there was no one there to protect them if their husband was out working and they were at home for whatever reason. There was a lot of easy ways to blame the women then as well.
I mean, 80% of witches that were accused / condemned, they were women. But there were also women in that kind of ideal homemaker role, or kind of healer, or just kind of the patriarchal stereotype of what a woman should be.
Also, depending on what class they came from, the man's family would also help accuse the wife if the man wanted that to happen.
I was just about to ask about that actually. Do you know what the most common gender of the accusee was? Accuser? Accusee? Which one am I at?
The person accusing.
Yes.
I assume male?
So you said male?
Well, I was going to say male, but you made a face at that. Sorry.
Female,
Female.
but possibly male.
Why would you say female though?
Because wouldn't it also be a competition to get married? So wouldn't you want to knock out like opponents?
Not just
as
for
other
marriage,
women?
but definitely, yeah, there was a lot of competition in between women, especially in places of low poverty and things like that. So where you've got a lot of rivalry going on for good reason because they could get away with it.
Doesn't it also make you not a suspect if you're blaming someone else?
Exactly right.
There we go. Perfectly.
That was basically the reason. So it was kind of like accuse or be accused. It was that kind of like danger. Speaking of accusing, we are now going to play a little game called Witch or Snitch. So essentially, this game, I'm going to show you a few pictures as always on our podcast for the listeners. You can see these and play along if you download them from our blog. But all the game is a series of images, and I'm going to ask you whether you think they're a witch or they're a snitch. So they're most likely to condemn a witch or they are a witch, basically. And then I'm going to ask for your reason why, and we'll just go along the row.
And this is purely for fun, so we'll just unpick this as we go.
Okay, so some of them are historically accurate, some of them not at all. So, number 1, Elphaba.
Which?
Witch.
Witch.
Absolutely correct. Why do we think she's a witch?
She's dressed like a typical witch's dress nowadays. She's got green skin, she's wearing black, she's got a pointy hat.
Yep.
Pretty much it. She's got the easy stereotypes, so she's very physically apparent as a witch.
Next one, are we ready? Matthew Hopkins. Witch or snitch?
Snitch.
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 Snitch. Why?
I think he looks very wealthy and maybe has a high reputation.
He looks like someone who could possibly be a witch hunter.
Okay.
He just looks like somebody who'd be very loyal and he wouldn't really go against what he would believe in or what would be stereotypically a man.
Yeah, so absolutely right. He would be classed as the Snitch because he was in fact the Witchfinder General. So basically he would travel the country being England, and I think he did go to Scotland as well. Am I right?
Occasionally.
And he was basically told for every witch he condemned, even if they weren't a witch, as long as they were burned, he would gain money out of it. So basically he did it for profit. Not everybody he burned or condemned being a witch actually was a witch.
There was a lot of financial gain in the witch hunts for certain people. So people in positions of power gained a lot financially from the witches. Just the idea of the witches existing.
Number 3. Hermione Granger. Witch or Snitch?
Witch.
Okay, why do we think witch?
She's got a wand.
She's got a wand, fair enough. When I was making this resource, I was kind of thinking, is she a witch or is she a wizard? And then, what is the difference? Because I think wizard has more positive connotations.
Mm-hmm. But definitely also more male connotations, which might be a very clear underlying link.
Yeah, that is true.
Because quite often they're just like led by gender. So
I think she would count as a sorceress because she casts spells rather than just making things happen.
Yeah, rather than just like potions or wishing things upon people and cursing people. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Right, next one. Agnes Sampson, witch or snitch?
Witch.
Absolutely right. Yep, she was a witch. She was a witch during James I of England / 6 of Scotland's time. At the time of her accusal, she was quite old, I think. I want to say she was in her 80s, but that is quite old for someone in the early modern period.
Quite elderly for a time period, as far as we know.
She basically got wrapped up in something to do with James's wife, and she started condemning other people as witches. So, yeah, that's that one. And now, moving on. I can never pronounce this woman's name.
Tituba.
Yes.
I don't know if this is cheating, but because it's not based on that, she was technically both, I think, because she came up with quite a few methods to test for witches, but then because they didn't work, she was then accused using her own methods as proof of being a witch.
Yeah. So, for anybody who doesn't know, this one was a character in Arthur Miller's The Crucible, which was, he basically used the Salem witch trials as a reflection of the communism movement in the 1950s. So yeah, she was, I believe, an African. Was she a slave? I can't remember if she was a slave.
Yeah, I believe she was a slave of descent.
And then she essentially was told that she cast magical spells and powers.
The interesting thing to link as well is because Tituba was not of an English descent, you can also then look at whether that was actual magic or whether it was the idea of voodoo and things like that. So magic from different countries obviously has different connotations, and magic does mean different things depending on where you're coming from. So it's one thing you can bear in mind as well, is that her idea of magic was probably very differently perceived to what those accusing her thought of.
And our final, Abigail Williams, witch or snitch?
You can see a lot of confused
Snitch.
eyes for the first time. So we got one snitch.
I'm not sure who that is, but I'll say Snitch.
Yeah, snake.
You're all absolutely correct. So she was also in The Crucible, and she was essentially the, I don't want to say a protagonist, but main character. And she basically was having an affair with a man called John Proctor, and his wife condemned her for being a witch because of the affair between her husband and this woman here. So then she basically, as a way to get out of being condemned for adultery, she basically called everybody a witch and started the big trial. Is how it basically worked. So yeah, and that was witch or Snitch.
You guys did really well with that. So well done, because it's really good to pick up on the little things we've been talking about and use what we've learned to put that to the game. It's really good stuff.
It's all about adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
So we can use our historical knowledge for modern debate, essentially. So I think that's all we've got time for in this episode. I hope you've enjoyed listening or participating. And we will be back with episodes 3 and 4, where we will discuss literature and class. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.